Feedback from the talks that we would give. That was like the first YouTube comment section. It was like,
oh, dude,
I mean, you don't do videos on YouTube, but
dude, so bad.
remember?
Man. Yes, dude. In fact,
I called all the boys. I'm not proud of this, but I called them pussies, and I got in big trouble for that. And I shouldn't have used that word, but it was my way of.
No,
like,
I know what you're saying, dude.
Yeah,
right. I get it. You're playing the coach card, you know, and it's like,
and it worked.
There is something like motivating about that, like with the guy, when when you're being called out, like yeah. I normally try and like modify that word with pansy or something. They get it, but I'll give you some tips after this, man. Anyway, but yes, dude, the comments were so. I remember one year they gave you the option, like, do you want to see all the comments you got, the feedback? It was like positive and negative, and we were like, yeah. It was like a group decision. It wasn't like individual, and so this was like all the hosts like that. I'm thinking of this specific group, so Paul George, Annie, all just Steve Agrisano, just different people that host the conference. And then, so I got one, it was 78 pages long. Okay. I remember. So they gave us, it was like a PDF.
Wow.
Like they must have scanned in. This was a long time ago. All right. And I'm reading through it, and like 90 something % of these comments are very positive, like over the top, undeservedly, like this man's a walking saint, you know, like, and then there would be like 3 comments that would say, and those were all I would think about. That's like how insecure you realize.
That's
like
everyone's
man,
experience.
I'm really insecure.
Yeah.
And but I mean, some of them were so funny. I remember like, just things about like, why does he put his hands in his back pocket? Like, why does he wear a dark colored skinny jeans? Like, what's he trying to draw attention to? I mean, just stupid things that you're like, what? I mean, just the dumbest things. But you start thinking like, man, he really seemed off this weekend. I don't know what was wrong with him. And then you're just like, we're trying to think like, what was I doing that way? I don't know. But dude, it really made me like second guess. I actually, the year after that, I took 4 years off from doing the conferences. I was just like, why do I care so much about this? Dude, it was like really like.
That was the impetus for you taking time off?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was that, and like just like, I think just some personal things of me and Jesus, like thinking like that, like it made me think like, why do I care so much about this? And then like, why does Jesus love me? And what, how has being like a speaker person from the time I was in college onward, like, affected my walk with Christ, like in a negative way. It's just, it's just something that like, I feel like there were some things that needed to get worked out there, but yes, I felt so embarrassed that I was like, cared so much about what some random, youth minister thought of my, skinny jeans.
Yeah. And now many Catholics who are trying to reach people with good intentions are doing it online. Mm-hmm. And the comments are just piling up whenever you say something, and I wonder what that does to people.
Yeah, you'd be able to.
Yeah, I would
testify to that, man.
Yeah. It crushed me the first time I got a ton of negative comments. Yeah. And I would much rather say.
What do you do to combat that?
Well, it only really crushed me once.
Okay.
I did a particular interview years back, and people from both sides were just deeply ashamed of me, and saying things like that.
Well, buckle up after this interview, just so you know.
This is nothing compared to that interview, I promise. And it's the same thing where you wish you could say, I don't care, but I definitely cared. And so I gave my computer and phone away, I think, for like 4 days, just so I could get out of the thing. Because it's funny, like, it doesn't matter how big you are. Are you texting while you're talking to me? I'm trying to share my heart with you.
I guess I have my notification.
Yeah,
I guess I have my notifications on, bro. I was trying to think. I did. I just did, dude. I did. I don't know why they're on.
God, it's way worse than negative comments.
There's a fine line, because I know we were talking about this in men's group. I don't want to like break the seal of men's group, but like, I think there is something that's okay with, like, I am not impervious to people saying bad stuff about, you know what I mean? Because there's like, yes, on one side, it's like, if you're a saint, if you're there, dude, and it's just like, you have the luxury of being like, in a relationship with God where you don't care about anything. You don't care what people say about you. You don't care what your kids say about you. You don't care what you know any of this stuff. But most of us like aren't in that space, and so and there's the reality that like we might not being like living beyond reproach, like, and so like there I think like for me that was like what was so hard about it, is like thinking like, well, man, maybe some of this stuff I should take to heart, what I mean? And it's also like I feel like I try and share with the college students like, hey, I felt really insecure about this, or I struggle with depression, or I don't know, like there's something that's like I feel like it's like very human and like good to be like, oh, Matt Fradd, like he felt insecure about something. Like there's something about that. Like I feel like it makes you as a normal person be like, oh, well, I guess I'm not like a weakling if I felt bad that someone made a weird comment about my shoes or something. You know what I mean? Like,
but I think like the analogy is this, right? So once I got all that blowback, I gave up my computer and phone for a few days and then didn't care. And I think what happens is it feels like, it's not true, but it feels like the entire world is set against you when something like that blows up. Even like at the time, I probably had like 17,000 YouTube subscribers, and maybe there was like 100 negative comments. Not like now, bro. Not like now, baby. See that?
That was 200,000 ago. No big deal. All right, anyway.
Yeah, but I would say that after that, I actually haven't cared as much. And I don't know what changed. But I suppose like there's an analogy here. Like if your friends could have said to you when you got those negative comments from those few youth ministers, if people had been in the room as you gave those talks, and they may have said, yeah, like I think you could have done this or that better, but they would have said it in love, and because of your relationship, your guards would have been down, and you would have been able to hear them, heard them. But then they could have also said, no, it was actually an excellent talk. Like that's the analogy here, because just like I don't care about YouTube comments anymore. Like I actually don't care. I put out so much content, I don't have time to scroll through it anyway. But I really do care if you call me on something, or Neil calls me on something, or Thursday says you shouldn't have done that, or Trent Horn will call me, or Jimmy Aiken, or friends will. I'm like, thank you. Like I'm really appreciative for that.
Yeah.
But you can't be adjusting yourself based on every negative comment. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe or you're a dingus. What's a dingus exactly?
Used to refer to something one cannot or does not wish to name specifically.
You don't have to subscribe, but if you did, I'd love it. You dingus.
Like the video. That's where we're using that one. Take one.